It's super zoomed in for me. I don't know if it looks that way for anybody who's watching. Okay, what's up? So today's training is going to be about how to eat healthy while you are on the road. Presumably traveling by car, but a lot of this stuff would work if you were, just going on vacation somewhere by plane or whatever it is. So take what is useful for you and what applies to you and leave the rest. That would be my advice. Now, I'm not going to start by saying, pack carrots and celery sticks and stuff like that because that's pretty obvious. Pack healthy food, right? We all know that. I will talk about that a little bit later, what kind of foods you could pack. But I'd rather start with a bit of a psychological piece here. Now, this topic came up because someone requested, when he's on the road, he tends to opt for the greasy spoon sort of thing or the fast food sort of thing. And the truth behind that is that the greasy spoon and the fast food is always the most convenient option. It's not just the most convenient option when you're on the road. So why is it that you feel drawn to those things when you're on the road? Well, the chances are that you have an association with being, traveling somewhere, being on a trip or something like that, and eating that kind of food. Perhaps you've done it in the past. Maybe your family did it when you were a kid. Be like, oh, we're on a trip, we're on a family vacation, and so we're gonna eat some fast food or something that we don't normally eat. I don't know what it was like for you. I know that my family did that a bit, and I certainly know other families that did. So really, the chances are high that you have an association between being on a trip and eating that kind of food. And so, if you really want to be successful at eating healthy when you're on the road, you have to address the association and you have to recognize that association might exist. And what that might mean is next time you find yourself being sort of drawn to a fast food restaurant because it feels like a gravitational pull almost, is to give yourself a little bit of psychic mental distance and say, what is it that's drawing me there? Is this really the best choice for me at this time? What exactly am I trying to achieve with my diet? Ask yourself some questions to sort of reframe the situation and re-establish your priorities. And one thing that I came across recently that has been really effective for me is that when self-control is an issue and you feel like you're a little bit out of control, like your habits are running the show, addressing yourself in the third person is very effective as a tactic. So all that means is instead of saying, what am I doing? This is stupid. You would say, Ian, what are you doing? In my case, use your own name. uh, and because just by the structure of the language, you're putting yourself at a bit of a psychic distance from the behaviors that you're engaged in, and it helps you see it as a third person and get a more objective view of what exactly you're doing. So I think that's a pretty helpful thing next time you find yourself being drawn to that kind of food. Now, another thing that can help is postponing rather than restricting. So instead of trying to make some sort of rule about I'm not going to go eat fast food or something like that on this trip, instead, when you get the urge to go eat food like that, right, postponing is a much more reliable strategy for getting the overall outcome that you want. So instead of saying, I'm not going to eat fast food while I'm on this trip, saying something like, okay, I can have fast food, but I'm going to have it for dinner, right? I'm not going to have it right now. I'm gonna push it off until later, or I'm gonna make sure that I get that the next thing I eat is healthy, and then if I'm still hungry, I'll allow myself to have the fast food later, right? That sort of thing. So postponing, much more effective than setting up restrictions for yourself. Now, this is a little bit less of a psychological thing, but there's still a big psychological piece to it, and that is that you can allow yourself cheat meals, but not cheat days. And so you can see how that would be a little bit psychological, but there's also a hefty nutrition part of that, because if you're giving yourself cheat days, you can blow an entire week's worth of healthy eating very quickly with repeated meals on a cheat day that don't align with your goals. But a cheap meal is unlikely to throw you off track too far. There's only so much damage you can do with a single meal. So, you know, something like allowing yourself one treat a day while you're on a trip or something like that could work. And if it's flexible, it's even better. And then you can get into that postponing territory as well. Okay, so those are some of the more psychological pieces. Now, this is entirely physiological, but it sort of, the phenomenology of it is mental, is psychological, and that is willpower, the role that willpower plays. And it's pretty sneaky how important your blood sugar levels are to your willpower. So almost any time that you feel like you lack the willpower to do the thing that you know you should be doing, the culprit, or at least one of the culprits, and one that's easily manipulable, is just having low blood sugar. If you don't have readily accessible energy, you are much more likely to cave to temptation, because willpower requires glucose. Your brain is burning glucose, and it's energy intensive to employ willpower to do anything. So eating throughout the day when you're on a trip can be a really helpful thing to do. Now, of course, you want to eat healthy stuff, but just sort of, if you're driving, just snacking occasionally, eating some of the foods you brought along with you, so that you keep the blood sugar levels up, you keep glucose in your system, and you give yourself the fuel that you need to make the right decision. It can be very, very helpful. Now, there is a place potentially for fasting in this overall strategy. That could also work if you're somebody who's used to fasting, and if it agrees with you and all that. So I've certainly used the strategy of, you're on a trip, you know that you are going to be at a hotel or whatever it is that night, you're going to eat a decent meal, and maybe for breakfast or something like that, you have the ability to eat a buffet, which is pretty common at a lot of restaurants, right? So you could just skip breakfast one day, skip lunch that day, and then just have a big dinner and have a big breakfast the next day, and totally make up for the missing calories, right? That might work for you. If you struggle though with temptation, then the blood sugar maintenance approach might be better. Okay, now we're going to get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty stuff, like what can you do for your body? So blood sugar would be one example of that, but another one is just drinking water, keeping water on hand at all time. Have a bottle that goes with you, preferably not one. You don't want to just get one of those PET bottles, one of the plastic bottles they sell at convenience stores and things, especially if you're driving a lot, because even if it's BPA free or something like that, sunshine going through the plastics in those bottles causes degradation of the plastic, and then you get plastic in your water. So it's much better to have like a good quality water bottle that you take with you. And drinking water consistently has a bunch of positive effects. One is simply that very often when you have cravings, it's actually thirst that's just being mistaken for whatever reason. The human body, the physiology, we are not great at distinguishing between hunger signals and thirst signals. It seems kind of silly evolutionarily, but it is what it is. And so just drinking water, keeping water in your system, keeping yourself hydrated can have a huge effect on curbing your temptation, the cravings and things like that. Obviously, it's also very good to stay hydrated. Now, I generally recommend people shoot for like 100 ounces of water a day, or for most men like 3 liters. But if you're in a warm climate or you're exercising regularly, then even more than that, potentially even 4 liters is a good target to shoot for. And there's a final good thing about this, and this may not sound like a good thing at first blush, but trust me, it is. And that is, if you're drinking water, you're also peeing. And what that's going to force you to do is to take more breaks, right? And actually to do a lot more movement and walking. So especially if we're talking about a road trip here, right? You can get into the zone when you're driving, and it's just easier to push on and push on, and before you know it, you've skipped how many rest stops, and you've been sitting for how many hours without really any movement to speak of. But if you're peeing, you're more regularly, and you're stopping at every rest stop, or not everyone, but more regularly, you're just getting more steps in. You're giving your body a chance to refresh itself through movement rather than stagnating in a car or whatever it is, right? And even if you're on a plane, a long flight or something like that, you get sucked into movies, and now you're watching 2-3 movies in a row or something like that. Standing up, walking to the bathroom, even if it's not far away, it has a lot of an effect on sort of keeping your body refreshed and active. Okay, so drinking water, very important. Okay, now you also want to be focused on macros. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you're going to have to eat at a less than desirable place, like a fast food place, like a McDonald's or whatever it is, or a diner or something like that, focusing on macronutrient breakdown is a really good way to go. And what that means is basically prioritize protein, right? Make sure that you're getting protein, and probably that you're eating that protein first. So you go to some greasy spoon diner, and you get, let's say, like some kind of steak or something like that, right? And it comes with French fries and bread and all sorts of other stuff like that. That's probably full of preservatives and fats and all sorts of things like that. Well, by eating the protein first, you're actually signaling to your body what you want it to do with the nutrients, right? Protein itself has a very powerful muscle retention effect on your body. It basically signals to your body that the muscle is going to be important, and that we should be feeding the muscle what we're eating, and it can help control your blood sugar levels and insulin levels and all things like that, just by eating the protein first, right? After that, you'd want to go to vegetables and save the carbs for last, because if you still are hungry, there's nothing wrong with eating the carbs as long as it's within your target calories for that day. But obviously it's better to get more macronutrient dense foods. They're more preferable than just a sort of straight carb source, straight energy source. Okay, so focusing on that, prioritizing eating the protein, and then even if you don't track what you eat, and I usually don't, but some people do, and it has a lot of value to it. So if you can get into the habit, it's a wonderful habit to have. Even if you don't have that habit, though, when you're traveling is a great time to sort of give it a test run, because let's say you're eating at something like McDonald's, right? It's going to be very easy to track what you eat at McDonald's, because all you're going to need to do is use your app and put in like a McDonald's quarter pounder, and it's going to give you all the macronutrients and everything like that, and you're going to have it right in front of you, staring you in your face, what exactly it is you're eating, how many calories it is. And if you give yourself a limit or whatever it is for the day, like I'm going to eat no more than 2,500 calories or whatever, 3,000 calories, whatever it is that you believe is your maintenance, or if you're trying to diet less than that. Though I wouldn't necessarily recommend trying to diet when you're on a trip like that, because going on a trip can be stressful, and dieting itself is a pretty massive stress on the body. And so if you're overloading the stress, you're not only not going to get the results that you're looking for, right? Too much stress and your body basically goes into preservation mode, which means hang on to fat, because we might be going to a famine and we might need this fat for fuel. So we don't want to double down on the stress. Going on a trip is a good time to take a diet break. Okay, and diet breaks are very important for both the psychology of it and for the physiology of losing weight. Okay, so it might be a good idea to take a little break, but that doesn't mean you should just totally blow your diet and just eat whatever you want, totally destroy your calorie counts. It's a good time to sort of return to whatever your maintenance calories are, the calories that will not cause you to gain weight or lose weight, and just track those. And it's not overly difficult, especially if you're eating at restaurants. Okay, so that's another tip. Now, bring snacks. This is a pretty obvious little thing that you can do, but it goes a long way, especially if you're bringing the right snacks. So what are the right snacks? Okay, nuts are a good choice. Now, nuts are not a great protein source. Yes, they do have protein. They're actually much more of a fat source. And you have to be careful with nuts unless you're trying to gain weight, because while they're good for you in terms of macronutrient density and things like that, nuts are also little calorie bombs. I mean, man, those calories add up very quickly. So in case you didn't know, 1 gram of protein has 4 calories in it, right? 1 gram of carbohydrates, 4 calories. But 1 gram of fats has 9 calories in it. So that's more than twice the amount of calories for the same weight of whatever, of that macronutrient. And nuts are very high in fats. Now, they're good fats, they're healthy fats. They're the kind of fats that reduce cholesterol. So they're good to eat, and you should be eating nuts. Just be careful of the calories, especially if they're like seasoned nuts, or if they've got sodium on them, salt on them or something like that, right? Okay, but nuts are a good choice in moderation. Jerky is another really good one. Now, if you're living in a place like Japan, like I do, the jerky choices are pretty limited. You can probably find some stuff on Amazon, and some stores sell some interesting stuff. They do have things like bonito bars, which is basically a fish that's sort of packaged in plastic, and you can get those, and they're flavored, and those are a great choice. If you're somewhere else, somewhere like the United States, you have tons of good jerky choices. You've got all sorts of organic jerkies. You've got grass-fed beef, bison, turkey, anything you could want. So jerkies are fantastic. Obviously, it's going to keep well. It doesn't need to be refrigerated. Good choice there. Another good one is hummus. So, we all know you could bring carrots and celery and stuff like that, but this not, is that really going to scratch your itch? Is that really going to provide? Are you going to be like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm just going to eat a bunch of carrot sticks, right? How many carrot sticks would you need to be less hungry? And celery, if I'm not mistaken, actually burns more calories than you get from chewing it, right? Because it's all water essentially. So, but you add hummus to that mix, and it changes the game, because now you have chickpeas. Chickpeas are a good carb source and a good protein source. So, and plus obviously you can have things like olive oil in the hummus and that kind of stuff. So hummus is great. Fruit is also great, whether it's dried or fresh fruit. Very good. You don't really have to worry so much about eating actual fruit and getting fat from that, right? You'd have to eat so much of it, and so much of it is fiber anyway. And it's going to be good for your gut health, and it's going to be a quick, healthy energy source to keep those glucose levels up so that your willpower is online and active. And then another thing I like to recommend is tuna. Cans of tuna, real simple. They pack well. You don't need to refrigerate them or anything. And if you don't like just eating raw tuna, well, bring some hot sauce or something. Throw some hot sauce in the tuna, something like that, and you can make it through. But there's also, the honest truth of it is, and this is the reason why I started with the associations part, is that being on the road does not mean that all of a sudden you don't have access to healthy food. There are supermarkets all over the place, and we all have GPS on our phones. We all have Google Maps. You can search for the nearest supermarket and go there instead of going to the convenience store or the McDonald's or something like that. It doesn't take that much more time. And what can you get at a supermarket? Get things like Greek yogurt, things that you would eat normally at home, things that are high in protein, things that maybe require refrigeration, but you don't have to bring a refrigerator box if you just stop by a supermarket. But you need to have the associations. You need to be able to do that when you're already tired from traveling and you're stressed out and things like that. And that's going to take willpower. Okay, there's also the idea that you could bring supplements. Now, which supplements can or should you bring? Things like vitamins and stuff like that. Sure, that's not really nutrition. That's not going to help you feel more full. I would, however, recommend things like athletic greens or some sort of greens supplement, right? Just a powdered form, that sort of thing. You can put it in a little bag, and then you just get some water or something to mix it with, and now you've gotten a super macronutrient dense food. Helps you get all the sort of stuff, that the vitamins and minerals that you'd want to get from your plant sources. It's portable, doesn't require the refrigeration, and then at least you don't have to worry so much about whether you're covering your nutritional basis. You take something like that, and then when you go to McDonald's or wherever it is else, all you need to worry about is the macronutrients. Did I get enough protein? Did I get enough decent quality fats, that kind of stuff, which you're probably not going to get at McDonald's, but at least you don't need to eat over your calories. So that way you're getting nutritionally, you're handling the nutritional piece and you're handling the energy piece. And for a couple of days, you're not going to send yourself into a tailspin doing that. Another one is something like Huel, which is something that I drink pretty regularly. It's HUEL. And there are many kinds of products like this, but it's essentially a sort of meal powder that you can mix with milk or water. But if you're on the road and you bring a couple servings of this stuff and like a shaker bottle, right? All you need to do is stop at a convenience store, grab some milk, throw it in there, shake it up. You drink it, you got probably 500 calories. That's perfectly balanced in terms of its macronutrients, and it's got all sorts of other essential micronutrients and things in there because it's basically designed to be a complete food. And then you go into the bathroom, you rinse out the shaker bottle, and you're done, right? That's like you took care of the meal. And that, with some healthy snacking, you can handle a whole day of eating very easily that way. And it doesn't cost much, and there are so many options like that these days that it's a great go-to, in my opinion. Okay, now the last thing I would recommend is this. You really want to make use of nutrient partitioning. Now, nutrient partitioning is basically how your body decides what to do with the nutrients you put into it. And it does this based upon what kind of stimulus or stress you have applied to it. If you haven't applied much of any, if all you've been doing is driving all day, it's basically going to send the food that you eat to your fat cells. It's going to fill up those fat cells for energy stores. Okay. But if you've done something like gotten in some decent resistance training that day, earlier that day, you're now sending a signal to your body that your muscles require nutrition. And when you eat food, even if it's not protein, that your body should preferentially send the nutrition that it receives to your muscles. And only once the muscles have been essentially topped off like a gas tank would be, then whatever the left can go to the fat cells. Okay, so get in a good resistance training workout. And this is one of the reasons why I'm such an advocate for resistance training over cardio, because cardio is not going to have a similar effect unless you're really pushing the intensity, like sprints and that kind of stuff. Okay, but how do we work out when we're on a road trip or something like that? Well, hotel workouts, if you're staying in a hotel or something like that, hotel gyms have come a long way. And even if it's not a great gym, you don't need a whole lot to get a good workout, right? You could do things like isometrics. I blabber on about these all the time, but they're just so freaking versatile, and they really do the job in terms of sending a signal to your body that you need more strength and your muscles need more, more capacity to work, which again is going to create that nutrition partitioning positive result that you're looking for. And you can do isometrics in your car. I do that all the time. Okay, you can do them on a plane. I do that. I haven't been on a plane in a while, but I would if I were on a plane. There's a ton of them you can do. And then, like a program like the one that I put together, the Rad Bod to Dad Bod program. Sorry, the other way, Dad Bod to Rad Bod program. All you need is a resistance band to do that, and some like chairs and things that are just you could find in any hotel room or motel room. A resistance band takes up zero space. Just put it in whatever bag you're carrying with you. You can do those workouts in like 10 minutes, maybe maximum 12 minutes, in the morning. And then for the rest of the day, when you eat, your body is going to send the food that you eat preferentially to your muscles. And so even if you're eating McDonald's, you're going to be putting that stuff towards building a better body as opposed to building a fatter, less attractive, less energetic, less healthy body. Okay, so that is basically what I got for this topic. If anyone has any questions or anything like that, I don't actually know how to see the questions, but you can always hit me up about it afterwards in the Facebook group, or if this is on YouTube, down in the comment section. Hope this is helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in, and good luck with your road trips. Take it easy, everyone.